And they suck now. They're pretty bad. Kyle Turris. Turns out that he's pretty integral to the operation.
It's the first thing I've been wrong about this year. Duchesne isn't the man I thought he was.
Well, you can't hit a home run every time. You were right about the beard. You were wrong about Matt Duchene.
Oh, we get a lot of shots. Everybody come to the net. We just have to get more and more pucks to the net.
What were you saying about putting pucks on net?
Get pucks on net.
Continue to put pucks on net.
Well, that's the key. We got to get the puck on net.
Pucks on net.
Pucks on net.
We used to talk about in Vancouver getting pucks on net.
Pucks on net and driving and making it a hard night on them.
5 long years.
Live on tape from, surprisingly, the Pucks on Net studios. This is Pucks on Net, a Vancouver hockey podcast. Doesn't talk about fantasy or fancy stats as I turn down the right knob there.
This was a dusty studio.
Yeah, it hasn't been used since probably, I think, the last Christmas party.
Yes.
So it feels odd to be back in what's affectionately my apartment across the way from a new naked woman that's disrupting the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, there's a new one. I could talk about that in a second.
Interesting.
Full dudes here on the show this week. Dave, you always have a special term for these type of shows.
We're hanging brain. It's a no pants podcast.
Actually, I'm not wearing pants or socks, so I got that going for me. It's me. It's P-Mac.
It's P-Mac.
It's Dave.
Hi, guys.
And no Gita this week, so...
so there goes half our listenership.
Yeah, so there won't be any mention of the Dallas Stars or Jason Spezza or any of that.
Or fantasy football.
Yeah. I want to thank y'all for joining us wherever you guys are. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksOnNetCa. And you can support the show monetarily over at patreon.com/PucksOnNet. Got some stuff over there.
We need a couple of bucks.
Couple of bucks will help us out. Couple of bucks in our pockets. And we've been selling merch as well. And it wouldn't be a Pucks on Net financial endeavor orchestrated by me without some sort of screw up.
Yeah, I saw that. It's not available for Christmas?
No, there was a misprint on the mug.
So some people get the misprint, or did they all get corrected?
Okay. 6 mugs were purchased with a misprint.
This is not the first spelling mistake you've made.
No, and I'm in the field of graphics, of typing things on the fly. So this is a fear of mine that I do not, I wake up in a cold sweat thinking about stuff like this. So I made the mug. I made the quote. We've all seen it. I sent it to multiple people, and I asked, there's no spelling mistakes on this, correct?
You didn't ask me.
I asked.
Didn't ask me either.
Well,
the 2 guys he hosts the show with. I'm not going to check with them.
It's probably fine. Anyway, nobody saw it.
He doesn't respect our
were these
abilities.
all your relatives who live out in Abbotsford? Check this.
They forgot their glasses. Estate was spelled wrong on palatial estate.
How'd you spell it?
There was only one T. Estate.
Estate.
Live from Guido's palatial estate.
So 6 were purchased, and I came up with an idea to help to mend fences.
A bunch of people were tweeting us asking for the misprints because apparently they think they're collector's items.
Yeah, it's like an error card from Upper Deck. Like when they photoshopped Eric Lindros's head onto some other Philadelphia Flyers body, and the helmet was the wrong color. I don't know how that went through.
But
But I had that card, and at the time, it was worth a fortune.
And it probably took them weeks to airbrush that.
Weeks, I tell you, weeks.
So my plan is I have the 2 shirts available. I have a secret hidden link that you can buy them at cost. So there's, at the cost of production. So if you bought a misprinted mug, 6 were sold, and you want to get a cheap shirt, email us directly, pucksonnetca@gmail.com. I'll send you the link, and you get the cheap shirt. We mend fences. You don't sue us. How's that sound? Good deal?
Good deal.
Don't say sue us. It's sue Ryan.
Yeah,
He's
sue
in
me.
charge of the business
That's right. Yes.
efforts.
That's right. I'm just talent.
We just show up.
Paul and I are just talent. Don't sue us.
So we're not starting off with the Canucks this week because there are some Canuck things, but there's a couple of very fun trends happening in the league right now, mostly in the Eastern Conference, and one team that we haven't talked about all season, which is our lovable love to hate Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, they suck. They're as bad as those orange Glad garbage bag jerseys that they wear.
I like those jerseys.
That makes one of us.
I like them almost as much as I love the pea yellow Nashville Predators helmets.
I also don't like those either.
Paul?
I'm okay. The Flyers, I think I like classic, simple jerseys, and they were the original orange.
I think I might I might actually hate them more than any other team in the NHL.
Really?
I despise the Philadelphia Flyers. I always have ever since I was a kid, and I always will. Their fans are psychotic.
True.
They chant racist and homophobic things in the crowd.
Allegedly.
They beat up fans who wear other teams' jerseys. They yell things that have no credibility whatsoever, like Crosby sucks.
But that was that one year where Claude Giroux was the best hockey player in the world.
Well, Crosby's got a few Stanley Cup rings that he should go show Claude Giroux at his house.
And Olympic gold. He wasn't allowed on those teams.
And some Conn Smythe trophies. And
It
a whole slew of classic Nathan McKinnon co-star Tim Hortons commercials.
Fan experience, or at least the fans in the building, can sour your opinions on a team. This week watching... or when it was, the Canucks were in Nashville.
Yeah.
I forgot, I like how boisterous and excited they are, but none of their chants are positive. When their team scores, they shout, it's all your fault and you suck at the other team. That's the point in the game where you're like, oh, everything is good. Let's be happy. No, it's let's yell angry things at the other team.
Well, Paul, the geopolitical climate of the United States right now is very negative. So
I know.
It's affecting everybody.
But that, all of a sudden, I went from being like, oh, good for Nashville. I'm glad it's working out. I've heard good things. To
fuck those guys.
Not quite, but it made me stop and go Canucks fans can be pretty bad, but that's rough. Even when you score goals that you're just like, you suck.
Well, after the Philly experienced their 8th loss in a row, Ron Hextall apparently went down into the dressing room to take media questions in the room in front of the team to get out in front of it.
I was asking a couple people this, and is there anybody in the history that's alive in hockey that you would not want to ask a hard shit on your team question to, besides
maybe John Tortorella?
Come on, he never played the game. How many times did John Tortorella try to kill Chris Chelios? Not that many times.
Yeah, Hextall might be the only guy in the league right now who I think could handle this situation. He doesn't give a shit about what anybody thinks or says.
He swears on the air, like when they drafted. That was Garth Snow. Never mind.
But he also probably shouldn't be the general manager of this hockey team.
What did he do when he answered the questions? I didn't see it. Did he? Because talk about Tortorella.
He was just straight up. He answered the questions.
He answers the questions.
Tortorella got mad at a couple of guys. He didn't like Brooksy in New York, but people asked him tough questions here. I never thought he got that upset
Ryan's
in
point is that when he was a player, Ron Hextall was a psychopath.
Paul.
But I'm just asking, relative to Torts, he's got that reputation. At the same time, I felt like he was pretty good to the media overall here.
True, but
how was Hextall in the same situation? We don't know.
Hextall was fine, but he's so terrifying and imposing that if you're in the scrum, PMAG, by the time it's your turn to ask that question, you're looking at Ron Hextall with his...
He's got a blocker behind his back
and
from
he goes,
his old playing days.
Paul,
and he's going to smack
that's what you think, yeah.
Oh, what's your question? Are these, instead of saying, wow, your team is a garbage dump, and I don't know what you're doing, and you haven't had a goalie in 30 years, you're going to say... Boy, that kind of a loss like that's a little tough on the morale. How do you bounce back? And he goes, that's a great question, Paul. Let me tell you. That's why he's down there, because nobody is dumb enough to go, what the fuck you doing there, Hex?
I might do
it. Nobody.
What are you trading Braden Shen for?
He's on the top line in St. Louis.
Scoring goals every freaking game. You don't know what you're doing.
Very few people will ask, tough, mean phrased questions in any dressing room, especially a losing dressing room. There's so much sugarcoating that goes on, and I'm okay with it to an extent. But people are getting after Jeff Patterson the other night for the first question to Markstrom after that 2-1 win over the Leafs.
Yeah.
He was like, so you could have had the shutout, huh?
Yeah,
and people thought he was being too hard on him, and I'm like...
That's bullshit. I agree with the people who are criticizing him. First of all, Jeff Patterson wouldn't know a pair of skates from a hole in his ass. First of all. Second of all, the guy had a 35 save performance.
This is not the point.
The Canucks laid down in the third period and just hung in there.
They literally did lay down. Maybe we'll just build a wall.
And the guy steals the game. And you hit him with that nonsense. That's just bad journalism. First of all, the story should be like, "Wow, Markey, hell of a game." That's a big win for your team.
That was not the point I was trying to get at. Sorry for launching Dave into that. He did come out and say he regrets how he phrased it and when he placed it in the question order.
Jeff Patterson, you just made the list.
What I was trying to make the point of is when that is what people think is a bad question or a poorly worded question. Nobody's in there asking why does your team suck, Ron Hextall? Like, nobody's going in there.
Because they're going to kill him.
Well, not even because of that. Like, Jacob Markstrom's one of the nicest guys you're going to meet in the room, and that's what people complain about. Oh, he was too mean, asking him about, it's tough you lost the shutout late there. Like, that's a mean question. Nobody's going in there asking Hextall or whoever in the Flyers room, like, why do you guys suck so much these days? Like, and if they do, they're not going to be there the next game.
But they suck because they're having a proper, well-timed rebuild where they're not rushing anything like a bunch of other doofus teams. Because I started thinking, and they have Claude Giroux, who's 29,
almost 30.
He's right in those.
They wasted him. Philadelphia is one of the most, again, why I hate them. This is the uncovered truth. We've never talked about them extensively of why I hate them more than any other team.
Have they ruined other players?
They've ruined other players. They've been handed a core that could have won Stanley Cups multiple times in our lifetime. This is like the third time this has happened. And they continually fuck it up and flush it down the toilet.
They don't.
They did it with Lindros.
Yeah,
they had a good run in the 90s.
Yeah, they four and out because like Hextall was 37 and passed it. They didn't put a goalie in there that could win it. It's a recurring theme.
Mm-hmm.
Then they did it with Jeff Carter and
Williams?
Mike Richards.
Or Richards.
Sober Island.
They get to Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals with Michael fucking Layton,
beer league goalie,
which is a miracle.
Wasn't Brian Boucher the backup?
Yeah, something like that.
Whoever.
Two great backup goaltenders.
Anyway, a goalie. But you get to 2 games within winning a Stanley Cup, and then because somebody's a little uncomfortable with somebody's lifestyle, they blow that team up inexplicably. They just blow it up,
and then
those same 2 players the very next season. Guess what?
Win a Stanley Cup, and then they win another one.
Or 2 years later, or whatever it was.
It was 2 years.
2 years later. 2 years later, they're both in LA, playing on the same line, win the Stanley Cup. Then they draft Sean Couturier. They get Braden Shen. Claude Giroux comes of age. All these assets fall into their lap.
They fall into. You know what else falls into their lap? Is Voracek,
Wayne Simmons.
Yeah, all because of those Sober Island trades. So they get another fantastic core
of players,
and they don't
capitalize.
But listen,
and they
fool me once.
They overvalue Sean Couturier all the time. Everybody talks about him. He's very buzzy. He's like the pesto of hockey players.
He's having a good year this year. He's playing top line, but I mean,
yeah. How many games have they won the last couple weeks? Who gives a shit?
Dave's ruining Ryan's whole build-up here to them not being the Edmonton Oilers. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
they're worse. They're a cock tease.
I started going through because you're not hearing it?
There we go.
I started going through their depth chart, their hockey DB draft history, and they have Gostisbehere and Ivan Provorov on defense. They have Nolan Patrick. They have these guys that in 2 to 3 years.
They got Reese Wilcox from the Merritt Centennials in the system. I've got his rookie BCHL game-worn jersey. He better do something in the NHL or that jersey's worthless.
Sure, he's lighting up the ECHL.
Okay, again, so they've got some pieces. They've got Nolan Patrick, if he can stay healthy for 2 seconds. Provorov, Gostisbehere, who's kind of having a bit of his sophomore slump after his great rookie year.
We call that Ben Huttoning.
Carter Hart. Pretty good goalie. Saw a lot of him in the dub when we worked for the Giants.
But he's 19, and if he becomes what he's supposed to be, that he's 3 or 4 years away.
But again, they could easily blow this again.
Mm-hmm.
The Braden Shen trade, I remember for the life of me, I couldn't figure that one out when it happened this year. I was like, what are you doing?
Well, they got too many guys.
He's 26. His goal and point totals just trend upward every year. What the fuck are you doing? I hope that they lose every game they play for the rest of the year. And I hope Hextall gets fired.
Interesting right now. They have no injuries right now. Well, they've got one. Their third-string goalie, Stolars.
Anthony Stolars.
Is the only guy on their IR right now.
Who's been the next guy coming up now for about 4 years. So Philadelphia really knows how to...
They've also got Dustin Tokarski in the system, I believe.
Well, Pierre Maguire keeps telling me that any year now, Tokarks.
Here's the funny thing that because I was doing my research. I'm trying to build a case for... These Flyers doing their rebuild properly, and I think surely
wrong.
Well,
wrong.
So I start thinking, well, they got these defensive pieces that look great. They've got a handful of forwards that could all gel together. Surely they're going to go against the grain, They're going to go against what they've done the last 30 years. They're going to get a goalie. There's going to be a goalie in the system. So I go to the Phantoms wherever they're playing now. And
Adirondack?
Lake. No, it's Lake something. And
Lehigh Valley?
Yeah, that's it. Dustin Tokarski's their starting goalie.
Lake Wanapumpak?
Yeah. Well, he's there.
Yeah. Oh, he's Tokarski's what?
Tokarski and Stolars are supposed to be their boys down in the minors.
Tokarski's he's like 28.
Yeah, and
he is what he is.
He's been Dustin. He's been the next big thing on 3 different teams now.
He's there because he's the Dick Bachman of the Philadelphia Flyers. Don't think that they're planning he's going to be the next big thing.
Big Dick Bachman.
So what's going to happen is Carter Hart will become an elite goaltender 5 years from now when the Flyers are terrible and they've traded off all these pieces for nothing.
And then they'll trade him too.
Yeah,
probably to Pittsburgh. So they're arch rivals.
Pittsburgh doesn't need goalies. What are you talking about?
Their goalies get hurt all the time.
Is it Groundhog Day in here?
I don't know. Anyway, there's a very strong pattern with Philadelphia. It's been going on since the 80s. They get close, and they blow it.
And when they get good, they kind of get cocky.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're unlikable, and their fans are unlikable, and they're ugly too. People in Philadelphia are really fucking ugly. I think they're not allowed in New York City because they're so ugly.
Sorry
so
to
those trains
listeners.
don't go that way.
Look at their heroes. Rocky, pretty ugly.
Dennis Reynolds.
Well,
I'm sorry, Deandra Reynolds.
Frank Reynolds.
Another team that's also terrible is Ottawa Senators. Again,
I'm really enjoying that. I hate to take pleasure out of somebody's misery, but they get to within a game of the a goal of the Stanley Cup final. And again, I don't like it. I don't want to see people, fail unless it's Ron Hextall. But again, don't try to fix something that's not broken. You got this great core, like you got a guy like Kyle Turris, again, trending upwards. For you kids who want to be GMs one day, if someone is trending upwards, why the fuck, I'm swearing a lot today, would you trade for a player that's trending in the opposite direction?
No.
Turris,
Matt
point
Duchene.
totals going up. Clutch playoff performances. Pretty good player. Matt Duchene hasn't seen the playoffs in 3 years. Had less than 20 goals last year. Let's make a deal.
You got to remember something. Matt Duchene just needs a change of scenery. That's all.
Also,
send him somewhere else. Look what he's gonna do.
He's got
Are you
character.
saying he needs a change of scenery from Ottawa?
Yeah, already. Well, he's got character issues. That's well documented too. That's not a secret.
Wasn't Jeff Carter traded 3 times in a year from Philly to Columbus and then Columbus to LA?
Well, he was traded in the summertime. It was a summertime trade from Philly to Columbus and then Columbus to LA, and then that led to a Stanley Cup. That was the Jeff Carter concert tour, 2012.
Yes.
But they were the icing. That cake was pretty well built before they added those couple of boys on the top.
They don't win the Stanley Cup without them, though. They don't.
No, but they were set up for a Stanley Cup more than the Flyers were when those two were in Philadelphia.
It's true. Philadelphia was an 8th seed, but again, they had a road hockey goalie.
One of the crazy things about Duchene is, everybody, and ourselves included, talked about what an offensive threat he was going to be on this lineup that kind of didn't have one. That was a score by committee kind of team, and then you think, well, with Matt Duchene coming in, they're going to score. There's your 35 goals right there.
Well, don't put words in my mouth. I said on this show that Turris was a better player, and they shouldn't have made the deal.
That's true, and you're looking pretty
like that right now.
You're looking pretty smart right now.
As unpopular as my opinions seem to be, they always, not always, but more often than not, appear to be the right ones.
Now, I'm pretty sure Ryan and I were talking about this, and PMAC's been right about almost everything this season. So other than the Turris thing, we need to do a tally between you and me.
Somebody's got to go back and listen to all the shows this season and see
I'm
who's right.
willing to bet that I'm right more often than I'm wrong. And the reason, but again, I didn't get into analytics and I didn't trust my gut. I just looked at trends. I'm like, one guy is getting better and better every season and improving, and the other guy is not.
The other guy.
So why would you do this deal? Why? Because you wanted him for a long time. Because he's like a shiny toy that you've just been looking at on Amazon.
It could be good. Let's see if it is good. Like, you didn't know what you were going to get with him because you assumed based on how he played in his. That's the other thing. Like, he played really good at the World Cup or at the Olympics. Those exhibitions should not count when it comes to a player. But
when Kyle Turris wins the Stanley Cup this year in Nashville, and he very well could.
I have a new pick.
They have a pretty good team other than Turris, though. That's another one where it's like.
Yeah, but Matt Duchene's going to a team that was within a goal going to the Stanley Cup Finals last year.
That's fair, although they were kind of
speaking of
underdogs. Nashville was a much more solid pick going into the Final Four, and
now they're even better.
Yep.
And they seem to be figuring things out. We're watching them beat the shit out of Boston.
They're the ones
right
who
now.
really pulled a rabbit out of their hat on that trade.
Yeah.
They are those three teams, they are the big winner. Also, Colorado, like those guys are like that whole
That's picks and futures. We don't know what you're going to get out of that.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. It's a hodgepodge.
It's like a Matt Duchene.
Yeah,
you don't
we'll
know what
have
you're
to
going to
see.
get out of
Give
him.
it another year.
I didn't think the Hamburglar would actually play for him, and he is. So that's a swerve.
Well, I think every goalie in the NHL has been hurt this year in some capacity.
And every team seems to need a goalie right now. Everybody needs a goalie.
You keep saying that the Ottawa Senators were within one goal, and that's exactly the amount of goals that Matt Duchene has in the last 11 games.
That's the goal. It makes the difference.
A goal and an assist.
I've never really liked him as a player. I always thought he was a little too soft. Flashy. He's what I call a YouTube player. He scored like 18 goals last year and had like 40 points, but they were all spectacular, so no one noticed. Everybody jumps on the Sedins for only getting like 50 points. They had 10 more points than this fucking guy. And Joe Thornton, tractor contract. I've been down this road before. $6 million deal, isn't that great? And everybody's like, what's wrong with the Twins? You know who's having a pretty good season this year? The Sedin Twins.
They are having a fun time.
Segue,
couple of weeks.
Daniel Sedin hits his 1,000th point on Thursday.
And nobody in Canada, nobody in British Columbia that were Shaw customers saw it. If they were watching
I saw
on
the
TV.
game. I had it on Gita's Game Center.
Yeah, we had to watch it on. I had to watch it on the Sportsnet or whatever.
Shaw's app was running,
free
but
range.
Their on TV wasn't.
I didn't notice there was a problem until I looked on Twitter and all the people were complaining.
These motherfuckers.
I think our loyal listener Brown de Bure was going to get a shotgun.
Yeah.
I
shotguns.
tried to let a couple people know on Twitter, like, just open your free range app, like it's working just fine.
Paul, you don't work. We don't work there anymore.
But that's the thing. I was running troubleshooting for a company that let me go.
I find it funny that I know that
this would never have happened if the two of you were still watching the wall.
Probably.
I find it funny that I never want to buy into the NHL hates the Canucks, doesn't respect the Canucks bias, but when he got his 1,000th point, the NHL tweeted out, "Well, it wasn't the prettiest goal, but it's definitely his 1,000th point."
Was that Vegas guy running the league Twitter that night?
I was like, come on, man.
Just say, classy guy, great career. No one deserves it more than Daniel Sedin.
Yeah.
He had a great game, and they won. Come from behind victory.
I love that game.
X-Men future meets X-Men past. Like, Besser gets a couple goals.
Sven Berchi doesn't work here anymore.
Well, and I was talking about.
Is he all right? Where is he?
He's down with the Misfit Toys on the third or fourth line.
Don't worry about.
They're trying to get him to fire up Vanek again because
he's gone cold.
I love patchy, but he's still got like 17, 18 points already.
Wait, are you telling me that Thomas Vanek is patchy and doesn't show up every night?
Yeah, but when he does,
I wasn't saying it like it was news, Ryan. That's why Berchi's there.
He's reading that in the encyclopedia. I really like watching Thomas Vanek because he kind of plays angrily, and he kind of.
I like that he just tries stuff.
Yeah, and like the I think it was, I don't know if it was a penalty shot or what. It was just a breakaway, but he slap shot on a breakaway goes in.
But he shoots,
the shootout.
Yeah,
he shoots pucks from behind the net. He goes for bank jobs.
He doesn't give a fuck.
That's how I play too. Like in my own game, like.
But you're not going to get dealt at the deadline.
I might. You never know. I was telling my teammates the other night because they always kind of give me shit for some of the goals I score are kind of ugly or whatever, and I'm like, you guys watch too much TV. They're like, what do you mean? I said this last night. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're watching all these fucking NHL goalies, and you're like, oh, that's not a quality shooting area. I'm not gonna let that go. I'm like, this guy, he's like probably manages a Safeway during the day. I'm gonna fucking shoot.
Just see what happens.
Yeah, no, he's a 40-year-old goalie who's plays the butterfly. If I slide it right along the ice, it'll probably go in, and it usually does.
Did he once play for the Flyers, maybe?
Yeah, no, it was Ron Hextall. He chased me down the ice with a stick. So the big thing right now, and I don't know, I actually subscribe to magazines because I'm old.
Yeah, I do too.
The Hockey News, if you're not getting it every week, there's really good stuff in there. They did this big issue on defensemen, and it was who do you got, Karlsson or Burns, and I don't think there's ever been a time in hockey recently since the 90s where we've had so many elite NHL defensemen playing at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And you put in the rundown talking about how Karlsson and Doughty won't take hometown discounts to stay with their teams. And it's interesting because more now than ever, we're figuring out that it's defense that not necessarily defense that wins championships, but offensive defense that wins championships.
Yeah.
Like you look at the guys that they had in Pittsburgh the last couple of years, not necessarily household names, but guys like Justin Schultz,
Chris Letang
when he's healthy, Dumoulin. These are guys who are willing to jump up in the rush and help their teams
Oli
out.
Nada, those kind of guys.
So the market for me, again, if I'm going to spend $9 million on a player, and I'm not saying that you ever should, I'd be way more inclined to give that kind of money, that fuck you money, to a top 2 defenseman over a top line forward.
Yeah, and the importance of them in this game in today's game is invaluable almost.
Like he won't take a hometown discount, but if Ottawa doesn't just sign Karlsson to that deal, it's foolish.
Well,
you're not winning anything without him.
There's 2 quotes that came out. The first one was Karlsson and Drew Doughty's, their contracts are up at the end of the next year. Karlsson said he was going to get what he was worth, and he said he was not going to take a hometown discount. He's gone and further said in some Swedish interview that his words were misinterpreted, that he wants to stay in Ottawa. But, I mean, it's exactly what he said before. I want to stay in Ottawa, but it's...
They got to pay him.
Exactly. What is a Lucas Spiezzel worth on UFA?
Couple of bucks.
Like 4.5.
What is he going to get, or what is he worth?
What could he get? $4.5 million?
No.
I don't think he's going to go that high, but he'll get the same 3.5 to 4 that he's getting now.
What's somebody?
No, he won't get that. He hasn't had that great a year in Vegas. He's been okay. 2.5.
What depends on the supply and demand, I guess, in the summer. Defensemen always seem to get too much money when they're around that age.
I know. And if you're a goalie, now's your time to cash.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, if you think about it, do you want 1 Drew Doughty or 1 Erik Karlsson or 2 $4.5, $5 million defensemen?
Well, Lucas Spiezzel is a bad example to bring up.
No, but I want one. I do want one because unlike forwards, defensemen can play half the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you signed Karlsson to a $9 million contract. The difference between giving that kind of money to a guy like Karlsson and a guy like Duchesne or whoever is that Karlsson's on the ice 30 minutes.
Yeah, and
that money buys you half of a game, and that's half of a guy who's almost impossible to outskate, a guy who that's a breakout. Half the time during the game, you have an automatic first pass breakout because the guy's that good.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. These guys do so many things that can help your team. Like Brent Burns has kept Joe Thornton relevant.
Yeah.
Like guys like Burns, like you don't have to skate as well as you used to if the puck's coming to you from 100 feet away right on your tape. You've already got half a step on the defenseman.
And that's why those defensemen are worth so much money.
Yeah, and they should be. Like guys like and then there's teams who have multiple versions of this guy coming up. Like Columbus has Zach Werenski and Seth Jones, and they're like, oh, one of these days they're going to have to pick between the two of them. No, absolutely not. You follow that model that I'm talking about, only now you've got one of those guys out there all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. And you look at teams who have won the Stanley Cup before Pittsburgh, where they've won it with like a garbage bin of defensemen.
Are you thinking like a Keith and Seabrook situation?
Exactly. Where you separate them. You don't play them as the same pairing, or like a Niedermeyer Pronger if you want to go back further to Anaheim. You've got one of these guys out there all the time. Like I said, we've said it 100 times on this show. You can find 20-goal, 50-point forwards in the fucking UFA bargain bin every year. Defense and goaltending are things you need to invest in. You look at Carolina; they've got like 4 of these guys coming up at the same time. Like
there's something there.
Like Pesky, Falk, Fleury, Hannafin. It's an embarrassment of riches. The Carolina Hurricanes, no matter where they end up playing, are probably going to win a Stanley Cup in 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah, the Seattle Totems.
That would be great.
What's your take on Karlsson and Doughty?
Well, I mean, if you're talking buying defensemen, I think it comes down to a lot of what's available at the time as well. Because, as great as it is to have those guys, I think there is still value if you can buy 4 or 5 Chris Tanevs for the price of one of these other, a couple of these big guys. Well, that's the thing. If you load up on a couple of these guys and you've always got one on the ice, that's great too. But at the same time, if you can have 5, borderline really good defensemen that are going to be solid and collectively chip in offensively.
But then
there's value to that as well because of the injuries that happen to defensemen, and you're really playing the lottery because what happens when if you've got a Karlsson goes down
$10 million
going into
man.
round 2 or whatever.
Yeah, but
I think there's something.
it's go big or go home. Sorry, go ahead.
There's something to be said about depth and whether you're going to moneyball it in a cap era. If you can have two of those guys in your lineup or one of those guys in your lineup, but it costs you otherwise, or if there are guys available and you have to choose between one or two at the same time. I don't know. There's something to be said about depth on the blue line.
I respectfully disagree, and I'll tell you why.
Well, you've already gone off for half an hour on why this is important.
But here's the counter argument to the depth thing. So if I've got like 4 or 5 Chris Tanevs or whatever, right?
You got to have 4. You got to have 6 or 8 Matt Duchesnes in the line in the forward.
Well, there's that.
Or
But
somebody better.
there's also this. So those 4 or 5 Matt Duchesne or Chris Tanevs buy me a pretty good penalty kill and a pretty good power play, right? But one Henrik Karlsson buys me Erik Karlsson. Sorry. I was thinking about the Las Vegas Golden Knights. One Erik Karlsson or one Brent Burns buys me an elite power play and an elite penalty kill right away. And that's the difference. And don't forget, he's just one guy, but he plays half the game and he makes everybody around him better. Mm-hmm. And Chris Tanev is a pretty good hockey player, and he's a great comparable for this. But he doesn't make anybody...
He's not quarterback in the power play.
And he's not your best penalty killer either.
He's just there to...
He's a solid player. So it's go big or go home, right? Like, without Karlsson, Ottawa doesn't make it to the third round of the playoffs last year. Karlsson with a bad Achilles heel still gets them that far.
Yeah.
4 or 5 healthy Chris Tanevs?
We don't know.
Didn't Edmonton have that?
They're scoring on their own
Did
now.
they? When?
They had Larson, and they had Sekera and Russell and Darnell
Russell.
Nurse. Hey.
He's lighting it up these days, but...
Chris Russell gets a bad rap. He's a better player than people realize.
Hey, let me ask you this. Is it a matter of not that... Is it important for them not to lose these guys as important as...
I think with Ottawa especially. LA is LA. That's a big market, and they'll always find another star. But really, Drew Doughty is that good. But I think for Ottawa, it would be a pretty serious blow that I don't think they might recover from.
Well,
it'd be hard to sell the fans on a new arena.
Well, where are they going to be when the contract runs up?
Like competitively?
Yeah, that could come into play as well.
Yeah, I think they got to do whatever they can to sign this. Plus, this is your captain, and the last captain you had kind of took off on you.
Yeah, we like you, Daniel Alfredson, but
yeah, they missed. That's a bungle. They should never have let that happen.
So PMAC, you were kind of on. What do you re-sign these Drew Doughtys and these Erik Karlssons for what they want?
Well, I think like I said, I think it depends on the situation where you get to that point in the season. If you think that money can be spent better on like 2 or 3 other guys, you got to consider that depending on where your team's at and what you need and what's out there. It's hard to judge. I haven't looked at the free agent pool, what they might be able to bring in at that point. And
well, what happens?
I don't think it's a sure bet. I think it's good to keep those guys around if you can. And I don't think it's definitely reasonable now that Subban's making the money that he is, that they're going to get paid in that neighborhood. But you can't just there's different options the teams can go with.
One of the things I really like is that they talk about how they look at how much money PK Subban's making. Like, yeah, we're gonna make more than that. Like they kind of shit on PK Subban.
They're both. I don't think you could really argue. And PK's a hell of a player, and he's got great market value.
But he's not
He's not those guys. He's that second tier.
Yeah.
There's that elite tier of 4 guys.
He's Ryan Suter.
And hey, Ryan Suter's
hell of a hockey player.
There's nothing wrong with being Ryan Suter. I'll tell you that. But yeah, that's the class he falls into for sure. He's not he's not a Doughty. He's not a Karlsson. He's not a Burns. But those are probably the only 3 guys in that class.
Yeah, and you got to.
Then you've got your Suters and you've got your Letangs and your Shea Webbers. Shea Weber used to be in that class, but he's not playing the best hockey of his career right now. Still very effective. And you wouldn't kick him out of bid for eating crackers.
I just think
those Habs are playing fantastic hockey, David.
It's amazing how Carey Price makes Alex Galchenyuk score. I don't really get it.
What's the situation with the Habs? Is it just when you know that you have Carey Price behind you, you can play you're playing a little more confidence?
I think so, yeah. You're willing to take that extra step. You're willing to pinch at the blue line just a little bit more. And when you're not following your hockey instincts, you can really fuck up.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I play differently if I've got a goalie back there that I trust. That being said, it's putting lipstick on a pig. There's still tons of problems in Montreal. Like it delays
problems. They scored 11 goals the other night.
Yeah, it's one. You still only get the same amount of points in the standings no matter how many goals you score. It doesn't matter if you got a touchdown and field goal. You're only getting 2 points.
Jimmy Howard will never play in Montreal again.
They win that game 1-0 in overtime. It counts the same. So, well, I guess Detroit doesn't get a point. But
so if Carey Price could play 60 minutes a night, does he get double what Drew Doughty gets? Is that where we're at right now?
Great penalty kill, great power play.
He could wind up from center ice, I'm sure.
Well, anyway, they're playing better because he's back there. But they're still not an elite team, and even if they get into the playoffs, and that's a big if at this point, they're not going to do anything.
Well, they're a team right now that everything has to be going their way. Everybody has to be healthy, and everybody has to be playing up to snuff, or else they're going to struggle. And that
they can't have too many off nights in a row and expect to stay competitive.
It's a bit of a Canucks situation there right now.
But in the Canucks case, it's much more acceptable because unlike the Habs, there's a very clear second coming of youngsters that you go, okay, we're the growing pains. We're letting guys kind of learn on the job. Like guys like Stetcher and all that are going to make mistakes. But with the Habs, we're like watching guys who are very established in the league make a lot of mistakes.
The Canucks are building their boat for the most part, and the Habs are patching shit up, trying to make things work after hurricane after hurricane. The vibe I'm getting there.
I just can't stand what that whole situation has become. It makes me sick. Like their fans are just the fucking worst.
Jesus,
next to Philadelphia.
Dave
fans.
hates everybody.
I really do. I don't have a lot of respect for the average hockey fan because they don't know what they're talking about, and they're very reactionary and they like to freak out about things.
That's sports fans in general.
I know. I don't understand.
No, I have always had issues with that, and that's why I went into media. I think because I can sit upstairs, I don't have to clap, I don't have to cheer.
Judgment.
I can eat my popcorn in peace.
But it's that being said, I can still escape into the game and enjoy it. But then I move on with my life.
You talk about teams having 4 or 5 Chris Tanevs making a run for the cup, and that seems to be what's happening in Anaheim right now because they traded. I thought Sami Vatanen was supposed to be this untradeable.
He was, but then the injury problems started with him, and then they got their Hampus Lindholms and their Mansons and this other wave of really well developed defensemen.
Yeah, I was going through their defense, and outside of BX and another guy, like it's all young, homegrown.
Yeah, it's great. So like a guy like Shea Theodore and a guy like Sami Vatanen all of a sudden become expendable, which is great for them, and they needed help up front, like in the worst way possible. And Adam Henrique is the kind of guy that can slot into your lineup.
I would almost argue
all over the place. It's a good trade for both teams.
They're doing the reverse, the non-Erik Karlsson, Drew Doughty situation, where they're going to have a team like they're building a Penguins-looking team, where they don't have the best goaltending, they don't have the best defense, but they have 4 solid centers, they have 3.5 solid lines that can score, and they're my team. Like if I'm picking a team out of the West right now, if they're healthy, like that team with Adam Henrique in there is built to go to the finals.
They're poised for a deep run. They're a tough team to play against. And you got that naked Ryan Kessler rubbing up against everybody. In the office. They pulled that, Thank goodness.
That was good.
Didn't take long. Yeah, Vatanen has never played a full season of hockey, and he's a smaller defenseman.
So he's buzzy?
What was that?
He's buzzy.
Oh, yeah. Sami Vatanen. He was very buzzy.
Yeah, don't you remember going into the expansion draft? Oh, there's no way we're losing Sami Vatanen, goddammit.
Ken Phelps. Go
on.
Yeah, no, he's never played a full season of hockey. He's on the smaller side for a defenseman. I still think he's a great defenseman, but I can see why he's expendable if they get a chance to bring in Henrique. How do you say?
Rico. That's his new nickname. That's his nickname with the Devils fans.
I mean, 50 points. He's good for second, third line, whatever you want, and give you some offense.
He was lost in the shuffle in New Jersey, and now he's going to be lost in the shuffle in all of these centers. Like he's a guy that and
when their guys get back, isn't he centering the top line now?
Yeah, he is. But I mean, Getzlaf and Perry Getzlaf and Kessler are supposed to be back soon. All the Ryans.
Yeah.
But Adam Henrique's kind of got that. Again, with these Pittsburgh Penguins comparisons, he's kind of fitting into that HBK line thing where I don't have to score all the goals. I don't have to play all the minutes. I don't have to do this. I just have to contribute just enough, and I'm going to be an integral part of this team. Like, the pressure's off for him in that role.
Yeah, if you can build those depth lines that can, beat out the other depth lines for the majority of other teams, it goes a long way. The Canucks in 2011, if you got Kessler on the second unit, you're always worried about which line you're going to check from the top to. If you can build that bottom six, you're going to blow a lot of teams out. That's
what I'm looking at now. If a team's going to be a contender for the to win the cup, like they have to have three and a half centers that they can't be beat. And if not, I don't know what they're doing. That's just something I've been noticing.
It's a good deal for both teams, it seemed like. Yeah, no, I agree. Although you got extras in that. I think New Jersey came out with a couple extra assets, too, in that deal as well.
They got some guy. What's his name here? It's Joseph Blandisi.
Blanchy?
He's Blanchy. And they get a 2018 third-round pick, and I think New Jersey gets an additional third if they re-sign him. So it's not a bad deal. I'm happy for him.
Well, there's more trades on the way with this goalie shuffle. The sad sack and terrible Buffalo Sabres are shopping both their goalies right now to the highest bidder. Robin Lehner and Chad Ochocinco are available to anybody who wants them. And Matt Molson, perennial, he's still in the league, is on waivers.
The Canucks, they should pick that guy up.
Pick him up.
What does he cost?
$5 million a year.
Yeah, I don't think the Canucks can slide that in unless they get some long-term Sutter. And
boy, Canuck fans will complain about
14 games, no goals, 1 assist. I don't think so.
Those are Matt Duchene numbers right there.
Duchesne. Yeah, maybe Ottawa should take a flyer on him.
Hey, if you guys rag on him enough,
Flyers should take a flyer on him.
He'll have a really great week next week if you guys give it to him hard enough.
It's the old Canucks and pucks on net dump and pump.
I always think
but he's going to the AHL, so he should put up some points down in Rochester.
Oh yeah, of course. Back to the Canucks. They had basically, what's that buzz? Whatever. They had some solid tests.
Sammy Vatanen. He's very buzzy.
Is that Sammy Vatanen? Whoa.
I just like to play.
They beat Nashville and Toronto. 2 tests for this team.
Yep.
Do we have anything where anything our thoughts and opinions changed on the team?
Again, I'm not looking at it. I'm just enjoying the ride. Brock Besser may have scored 2 goals in Nashville. I don't know. I wasn't looking. I didn't want to pay attention to it.
The Canucks looked like they were a team 6 years ago against Toronto for about 5 minutes, and people are losing it.
And then just hung in there. But the biggest story out of Vancouver hockey this week has got to be Derek Dorsett, which is really too bad. You don't want to see a guy go out before he's ready to say goodbye. But I think he made the right decision. I think for his family and for himself. On behalf of everybody at the table, and Gita's not here. She doesn't like it when I speak for her, but I'm sure she feels the same way. Just congratulations to a guy on a great career, a guy who's picked in the 7th round and gets 500 games in, and does it all the hard way. Didn't take a shift off. Good on you, Derek. And congratulations.
He's going to get paid. He's going to get the money that he earned on the Canucks deal. He's going to get that paid out, and he's going to be comfortable in life, and that's good.
He seems like the kind of guy who will be in the game. I think he'll take some time because I think what happened was pretty hard to process.
Did you see him when he came out with Daniel Sedin? He was heartbroken.
But I think, give it some time. I could see Derek Dorsett maybe going coaching some junior and maybe working his way through the system a little bit. I think he'd be a great junior coach, honestly.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to see him maybe back in the NHL one day as a coach. I think that's totally possible.
Hey, Mac?
Oh, the team kept saying part of the reason they pay him what they do is because of the leadership and guidance he brings for younger players, and you're sort of seeing that out of the woodwork with Ryan Johansson was saying nice things about him in Nashville, and a lot of guys that played with him in the past. He made the right decision when it comes to health, and he's the guy I've probably run into more than anyone from the Canucks organization, just like walking around Vancouver. For whatever reason, he and I cross paths a lot, and just seems like a really nice guy, but with a really young family, and you don't want to take risks anytime when your health is concerned, but especially when you're a young dad.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife is always at the games downstairs and stuff, and it's just like, I'm glad he, is that type of guy that, puts them first and foremost. But yeah, it's heartbreaking to see, especially as he's like, he was sort of hitting his stride, probably the best hockey he's ever played in his life this year.
Well, you regularly hear people say that Travis Green was the first coach in his whole career to play him in a non-goon role, and when you can play him to his best of his
this guy can skate and get to the net.
Well, let's just put him out there to fight I don't know, Zach Ronaldo.
Will he go fight Dennis Weidman?
Well, it's a depth thing again. You're saying like the Canucks this year have been successful partly because they've got 3 or 4 lines that can all do something offensively. I'm not saying they're an all-star team out there, but like when you're playing him in the bottom 6 up against other teams' bottom 6, he's got more speed than a lot of guys that play that role, and was really capitalizing on it.
Would his career have been shorter if he wasn't a fighter, or it's a neck? Like, do we know if that would be a thing?
They didn't say it was any one incident, except for he took a hit like a year and a half ago in a game. But he played such a rough and tumble cannonball style hockey, and he's not a big guy.
And
he would fight anybody.
Yeah, like
anybody. So I don't know, but yeah, great career, good for him. He wasn't here for a long time, but I can't think of a single fan in town who would say anything bad about the guy. He gave it his all.
Yeah, and
the only complaints people ever had about him was the money that he was getting paid. And that came up, and I'm not trying to like put him down, but yeah, that's the only. And that I've never been one to like when you talk about a player, I don't like necessarily always bringing the money into that question. Even with Bryant Reeves, that's the example. If you put a contract in front of a guy for a lot of money, he's going to sign it.
It's a business.
He was as hard a working guy as anyone out there, and that's if that's the one complaint, there's not much to say about people.
Everybody's been pissing and moaning about in terms of Canadian hockey, like Carey Price is back, or the Canucks are playing the Maple Leafs at 4:00. But people have kind of forgotten that the Winnipeg Jets are the best team in Canada.
Again, they're the Brock Besser of teams. No one's looking at it. They're the first place team in the NHL today, right now. They're number 1.
I'm kind of getting that vibe. It's your Brock Besser approach where.
No, I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, and that makes me feel really good because that is that team.
That's a city that deserves something good.
Well, and Shovel Day off every year. It's what the hell are they doing? Why aren't they trading this? Why aren't they making a move? And he knew what he had. And he sat on it, and he's built it up.
Yeah, that just dynamic defense with Byfuglien and Myers, and now Trouba wants to stick around.
That's what I love. Is like it's kind of like the Tampa of the South, where you want to go. All right, well you can just sit back. We'll find something for you when you're ready. Mm-hmm. And they it was tough love, and it was great to see.
It's pretty good. Maybe stick around.
Yeah, and like they're scoring goals by committee. Wheeler and Scheifele are like top 10, and like
Nikolai Ehlers is not Jake Virtanen and very exciting. Nick Patan, great player. Kyle Connor's got 8 goals. It's everything they've done has worked out this year. It's been
Connor's got 9. He's 20, and he's got like 9 goals, 17 points already.
Pretty good player.
Oh, Helleback.
They brought the Moose back. It's all working. Good for you, Winnipeg.
Steve Mason is stapled to the bench. They're pretending that he doesn't even play there. They're giving him the Brock Besser. We don't see you.
$5 million backup goalie.
Nothing wrong with that as long as they're winning games.
A couple more injuries, they'll be in Pittsburgh and win a cup.
There you go. Yeah, no, their home record's been great. I think they're right up there with Nashville. They've only lost 2 games at home in regulation all season, so goes a long way when you can make it hard for other teams when they come into your barn.
We had another goalie injury this year.
Who?
Luongo.
Yeah.
So could Antti-Niemi go back to Florida?
I thought he's going to go back to Pittsburgh.
Like Eddie Lack and Niemi, they got to get back in the league now, right? Like there's so many openings. So many.
Are there more backup, or are there more goalie openings in the NHL or quarterback openings in the NFL?
I don't know, but either way, Kaepernick's not getting either job.
Yeah,
Hey man, Edmonton's covering for Cam Talbot being out just fine. They won the other night, 7-5.
I like Laurent Brossoit because I saw him play a lot when I worked for the Giants and when he was an Oil King.
Isn't it funny that anytime we see a guy
from that era,
we're like, "Fuck, good job, man!
Yeah, you made it.
Good for you."
So, and he had a pretty good year last year in limited action. It hurts me to see him struggle. I don't like it. I'm sad for him, but they need to do something because apparently Talbot's going to be out for a few weeks. And the West is they're like 11-14, but if they can put a couple wins together, they get themselves back into this conversation. But like who's available that could really actually be an upgrade over Brossoit? And it's like Niemi, no.
Cam Ward.
Well, apparently they really wanted Chad Johnson the year he signed with Calgary, and he kind of saved Calgary's season last year.
Yeah.
But he's been bloody awful in Buffalo this year.
The thing is, well, especially in Edmonton, you're not necessarily trying to find someone better than him, but you need a second goalie probably
Cam
that's going to
Ward?
be able to at least split some games with them if you've got a long-term thing with Talbot.
How much money does Cam Ward make?
A lot.
Oh, is it too much?
I think he probably makes around $5 million.
That's too much.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much.
Do you think that Connor McDavid isn't a very good captain?
He's like a kid.
Do you think that maybe he's not the guy that should be leading that team?
I don't know, but I don't know how you get around not making him the captain.
That cracks open just the debate in general. Are you picking your best players for your leaders, or are you actually putting the letters on who the leaders are in the room, especially with young guys?
I think it's a situation with him where it's like he's going to get it eventually.
Yeah, but
so you might as well just do it now.
But there was a time where you would make young players wait
there'd be
to get at least an A even.
Bridge captains. There would be bridge captains.
Bo's getting that treatment
Jason
right now.
Smith was a bridge captain.
Yeah.
In Edmonton.
And then Landeskog, he joined the team as a 19-year-old, and let's just give him the C, and look how that turned out.
Yeah, that didn't turn out too
No,
good.
you go back in the day when we were kids.
Trevor Linden waited like 4 or 5 years before they made him captain. Dan Quinn was the captain of the Vancouver Canucks.
And Doug Lidster.
Yes.
To be like Stan Smeel was still in the lineup when Trevor got to town, and then they had the year where they were sharing the C.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I always think of like Tampa Bay had Tim Taylor on the fourth line wearing the C because he was the leader in the room, and then they had Dave Andrechuk. They weren't slapping it on LeCavalier right, or maybe they did for a little while.
They did for a bit, but LeCavalier and Richards were frontline players the year that they won the Stanley Cup in Tampa, and Dave Andrechuk is the one who got to go get the Stanley Cup. So
right,
yeah. Paul and I actually agree on something, which is shocking, but a nice development. Just because Connor McDavid is a phenomenal hockey player doesn't mean that he can't wait. Like, Toronto's making Matthews wait. They don't even have anybody else, but they just didn't throw the C on him right away.
And there's something to be said about, like, building the culture, because right now there's an expectation, and then some of these young players could potentially feel slighted because they've grown up in a generation where whoever the best player is gets the C as soon as possible.
Like,
where the letter shouldn't make a difference. And if you've got a guy in the room like the Canucks have got Michael Del Zotto wearing an A some games this season, people are like, he just got here. He's not
a character
star
guy.
Player. But
he knows
if
where
you
all the
talk
good
to guys
stars.
in the room, you make these jokes, but apparently he is a good guy in the room that chats up everyone.
He's lovely. Yeah, everybody says it on the team. Like,
he's always been nice to the media when I've run it. Yeah, like he's one of those guys that like.
Him and Sam Gagner apparently
it's
are just beauties.
It's kind of like that Manny Malhotra thing where he shows up with the team and it feels like he's been here
there for 10 years.
And
Del Zotto feels like that.
Yeah, and I'm really happy with that.
He's a good player. That's a great signing by Benning. That was a terrific signing. For the money that they're paying him and for what he's done, like being a top 4 guy. Yeah.
I've been hearing that Connor McDavid leaned on, of all people, Matt Hendricks.
No, everybody says that Matt Hendricks, like, do you remember the 24/7 with the Capitals and like?
Yeah, he was a hell of a guy.
He was a frontline guy, and like, he was. Bruce Boudreau said this is a guy who's willing to do anything for his team.
Yeah, and it's coming out that McDavid in the last 2 years, he does miss him a lot.
Well, you know where Matt Hendricks is now, don't you?
Where?
The Winnipeg Jets.
Oh shit, we're all coming full circle here.
Yeah. So that's the missing piece.
There's the Matt Hendricks. We solved it.
Yeah. Hendricks effect.
Anyway, I'm not sure McDavid's the wrong choice as the captain, but it's one of those things. Although they did try to sort of hold off giving the C to younger stars when they handed the C to who had it before? Ferentz?
Yeah.
In Edmonton?
Well, that was a dumpster fire situation.
I think
different.
I don't mind. Like the value placed on the letter should not be as high as it is.
Just because you
in general.
Just because you have a letter on your chest doesn't mean somebody else can't be speaking up in the locker room. And
people were freaking out when they were saying maybe Brock Besser will get the C instead of Bo Horvat, and everyone's like, Bo is the anointed captain. Yeah. We're not in the room though. I don't even mind if neither of them get the C. Like,
what if Del
whoever's
Zotto
running
gets
the show? Like, well, I kind of brought that up.
It does feel like it's Bo's.
It feels like it, but I mean, based on who's doing what in the room, like, slap the letters on who deserves it and let it be, and players should not feel slighted or that honored to get one. It's just, it shouldn't be as big a part of hockey culture.
There's the other
as
thing
it is in some eyes.
There's the other thing that's going on where teams are not having captains. Like Toronto,
I don't get that.
Toronto hasn't had a captain for like a couple of years. Vegas doesn't have a captain.
I don't mind that either. Because I really appreciate and respect the idea of having a captain.
A lot.
The Trevor Linden aspect of that.
Well, and Matthews, I think that they've done that the right way. Like he seems more captain-esque than McDavid, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it's an intangible thing, and you can't really articulate as to why.
Yeah.
But the fact that they waited, so when they do it next year, and they will,
and it'll be huge
because the team is having another, the loss in Vancouver notwithstanding, they're having another pretty good season.
Mm-hmm.
It'll feel a lot more natural when they give. Isn't that extra year? Doesn't that make a big difference that they waited a couple years? It's gonna when they give it to him at 21.
Yeah.
After he's been in the playoffs, I actually am knocking on wood because I like the Leafs now, which is weird.
So fun to watch.
After they make the playoffs a couple of times.
Even with their fans in Vancouver the other night and everything you've said about fans?
They've always been here.
Sorry.
Oh, I don't like their fans, but they're a nice bunch of boys. Anyway.
Yeah.
It will feel much more organic.
Yeah,
I guess
of course.
Is what I'm trying to say. That he had some success and they took their time. They gave him an A. Because Crosby didn't have it right away in Pittsburgh either.
Yeah.
It helped that Mario Lemieux was there when Crosby arrived.
Anyway.
But no, you guys are kind of, buying into the whole the meaning of the C, the crown that the player gets to wear. I'm still kind of like,
I don't play this card with you very often because I don't like it. It's not a good card to play, but I'm gonna play it here.
You play,
you
so
didn't play.
There you
and
go.
I gotta
you
chime
do
in
look.
too.
That guy is. So what that guy is he really is that bridge between the coaching staff and the players. And the room for, and if it's not rational, then that's fine. I agree with you. Even to this day, in the team that my fucking 8 Rinks team, our captain Harry Ma, we take our cue from him. His mood dictates the mood of the rest of the boys. The way that we react to the officials, the way that we react to the other team, we watch him, and for better or for worse, that's how we are.
But then when you look at that, though, when no one's wearing the C. Then does no one take any cue from anyone?
But here's what I'm sorry to interrupt. Here's what I'm noticing with a team like Toronto, for example. It is Matthews. It is.
There you go. So why not just give him the C?
Maybe they could now, but they're gonna wait. But it's obviously him.
Even in other sports,
and he's got
too.
a letter. He's got a letter on his jersey.
Oh yeah.
Even other sports too. Like when Jeter was the captain of the Yankees, it's just that level of respect that just trickles down to their teammates. And you hear these great stories of him doing stretches before the games, and he shows up, or players are late, and they come up to him, and he just has that. He commands that much respect that they're just like, sorry, Jeets.
And I'm not I am not disagreeing with you guys. I think we're just getting down to the physical, the letter C on the jersey. I'm saying. There are going to be guys in the room, even if there's no C on a jersey, to do that. So why aren't they wearing the C?
It's a transformative thing. This is the other point that I should make about this. Having had one before, it does something to you, and maybe they just feel like he's not quite ready for that yet. But your posture changes. They put that on you. And you stand up a little straighter.
You got to show it off. You got to be a little.
And it's the weirdest thing too, especially if you're a talker like me. You get quieter with it because you know that your words have more emotional weight. And maybe they just want to keep that off Matthews, let him lead by example. Everybody knows he's the guy, but it's not going to be on him to bang box guys for not showing up to practice on time. It's not going to be up to him to tell a 35-year-old veteran that he's not going hard enough in the corners. He's not ready for that part of the job yet.
I agree with exactly what both of you are saying, that you don't need a letter on your chest to be a leader, but at the same time, when you do get it on there, it's a game changer.
Well, no, again, I don't think we're disagreeing necessarily, but just, I don't know, the way you're presenting it right now it's okay, well, if no one's wearing that C, then no one's got that mantle on them. Then no one's getting that benefit from it. Which is it in that sense? So I'm just saying, if there's a guy in there playing that role while Matthews is still building up to it, why is that guy not wearing the C if he's going to get those benefits from what you're saying? You know what I mean? The transition periods where nobody wears a C, it's in Toronto, it's the tradition of the organization. In Minnesota, had the rotating C, which was kind of weird. Las Vegas is going the other way. No one gets to see
C is just ridiculous
until somebody wins it or whatever. They know who it is.
But the other thing with Toronto is they're doing everything they can to strip that toxic culture of leadership of the years of the Phaneufs and the Joffrey Lupus, all that stuff. So that's why they're keeping the C off as long as possible to build that new culture.
Well, it's the tradition of the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you're going to go on that list of Toronto Maple Leafs captains, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to wrap up this week's podcast here because I know what we're going to talk about on 5 Minutes for Paying because this is really funny. We've been distracted for a few minutes. So if you do want to support the show monetarily, you can listen to some bonus content every week, bonus episodes. That's over at patreon.com/pucksonnet. And if you want, make sure you follow the show on Twitter at pucksonnetca or pucksonnetca. And we're on iTunes and Spotify. And if you want to help this out and not give us any money, go into the Apple Podcast Store through the app. Give us a 5-star rating, a positive review. That helps us out a ton. And I just shipped a puck to Hurts Me, the guy that gave us that great review last week.
Yep.
Ship that out of my own pocket money. I'll do that again if we get another a heartfelt, a good solid one again. And again, if you bought a misprinted mug, you can email me at pucksonnet@gmail.com. Spend some more money, but less money. And we have discounted shirts available for you. Email us. And we're going to go into 5 Minutes for Paying. And, oh, man, Pucksonnet Christmas party is this Saturday. You guys excited?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
We'll go into 5 Minutes for Paying.
Back move,